I had a dream that I sold all my Nikon gear and ended up with Fuji tools. Strange. His response? Do that. I was like, my walk-around body has been Fuji since 2016. He's like, yeah, just do it. Welcome back to Sean Jackson here to talk about some gear. This channel is not always about gear, but I felt like it was time to have a little conversation about some gear. I'm not a gearhead by any means. I used to be one. I used to be the photographer that would want to get every single thing that's out there. But as I got older and more mature in my career, I realized that they're just tools. They're tools to do the job. Either the tools work for you or doesn't work for you. And not every tool out there will work best for each photographer. You have to find the gear that works for you. That being said, I'll give you a little backstory of the gear I've used and where I'm at right now. Early in my career, even before I even took it serious, I was a Canon guy. Yeah, I was a Canon guy. My first camera was a Rebel XT, bottom of the barrel. Literally the bottom of the barrel. And then someone told me, that's a cool camera, but you should upgrade it to like the 40D. And me being very inexperienced, I purchased the Canon Rebel 40D. Little did I know, it was basically the same camera. Sensor is just about the same. I'm sure it's identical. But when you don't know any better, you tend to take the advice of those who should know better. Anyway, I had my rounds with that. I was a prime lens shooter. I had one 18-55 starting off. Then I was told to get the prime, which was a 50 1.8. You know, it's cool. It did what it's supposed to do. A few years later, I learned about full frame, and I bought the Canon 5D Mark II. And that camera was one that I really, really enjoyed. It was like a tank. And then I bought the 70-200, the 70-200, you know, the gear that you're supposed to own, right? As a photographer, you're supposed to own these gear. Those two are like the holy grail of all things photography. That's cool and all, no knock against it. I no longer do that. But over time, I started to transition into the prime lens space. And I found that I actually enjoy that better. After that, I decided to, buy the 5D Mark III, because when you only have one camera, one is none, right? You gotta have two of everything. At least a solid backup. So I went ahead and bought the 5D Mark III. That was cool. Over time, I just got kind of bored, and I've always been interested in Nikon. So I decided to buy the 750. D750, bought it December of 2015. I was somewhat impressed, despite the menu buttons being, just the menu being difficult. I was like, how do y'all understand this stuff? This is crazy. But anyway, the dynamic range was superior to what I had at the time with Canon. I decided to sell all my Canon gear the following month, and I just went full-fledged to Nikon. Two 750s, traveling, shooting weddings, portraits, everything. Still being a prime lens shooter. And it was around 2018, I think, when Sony came out with its mirrorless. And I bought it. I wanted to give it a try. It was a big buzz. It was the buzz around the time. And again, mirrorless technology wasn't new, but it was the thing to own back then. But even previous to that, in 2016, I remember buying a Fuji X30, entry-level model. In fact, a friend of mine told me, he's like, that's a toy camera. Get rid of that. You don't need that. That's a toy. Get a real man's camera. I was like, whatever. It does its job. It does what it's supposed to do. I mean, it's a basic entry-level mirrorless camera. You go on trips, you use it to document stuff, it's fine. Then the following year, the weekend I was having our son was being born, I bought the Fuji X-T20, and I really enjoyed that camera. I love just the colors, man. The colors out of the camera was always solid. So there was just an affection for just Fuji. But as a wedding photographer, you know, I saw there were X Pro 2s out there, but I just didn't feel as if Fuji was ready for weddings. So I just said like, I'm gonna hold off on that because there's nothing wrong with a Nikon. So around 2020, March 2020, I bought the Nikon D780. It had a little mirrorless technology feature in there, but there was nothing real special, all right? But again, it's doing what it's supposed to do. Images are, sharp, everything just does what it's supposed to do. Not a big deal. And then by the winter, I noticed the rubber on the body started to like come off. I'm like, this is not even a year old. Why is it falling apart? It's not as if I'm shooting weddings every single weekend, because the pandemic had just happened back, a few months prior. But I'm wondering, why is this glue so cheap? I was like, whatever, man. It does the job. I'm not complaining. You know what I mean? But it wasn't until May of 2021 I had a dream. In fact, I stay with my receipts. All right. Pull up my WhatsApp real fast. Look up Kurth Bob, my homeboy in DC. I sent him a message on May the 24th, and it reads, had a dream that I sold all my Nikon gear and ended up with Fuji tools. Strange. His response, do that. I was like, my walk-around body has been Fuji since 2016. He's like, yeah, just do it. Those who really, really know me understand that when it comes to dreams, I kind of take it serious. It's not something I take lightly, because I think a lot of things are manifested through us by way of dreams. Again, I didn't plan on buying no Fuji camera because I'm a Nikon user. I was getting ready to get the Zs, the Z9s, and whatever they had coming out. But I had the dream that I was getting a Fuji. And I went ahead and I listed my things online, and I sold all my Nikon gear. And I went to the camera store and I bought me a Fuji X-T4. Yes, we're talking about the same Fuji film. You might be wondering, Fuji? Like Fujitsu? The company that makes cameras for old people? Yeah, that Fujitsu. They make great cameras too. A lot of people sleep on Fuji. They really do. Like, Fuji is pretty dope. Like, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm not gonna talk all the tech about it. I'm gonna tell you what I love the most about this camera, right? Because for me, again, cameras are tools. They're there to do a job. It has to feel right in your hands. All right, first thing, I love the way it feels in my hand, all right? I also love that I can customize my shutter button. I have my red shutter on here, because straight out of the box, it's kind of boring without the customized shutter. For me, it feels right. I love the button assignments. It has an analog feel to it. I'm not a big tech guy. I just barely got my Apple Watch 2 weeks ago. So as you can imagine, I'm not that into technology per se, but that's like something about me, I like analog. That's why I love shooting on film. Some days I go out just shooting just a roll of film. But I love this analog feel. Exposure compensation is here. My shutter here. My ISO is here. Everything's where I need it to be. Okay, so it's very Easy to reach. I don't have to go through the menus, push any buttons to find things, right? Easy to reach. Okay, if I want to switch to movie mode, just switch, just hit the switch. There's a switch there. Okay, very simple. I love that the JPEG files, like I can shoot things in JPEG and be okay with it. If I'm out on the streets, I can legit shoot in all JPEG, load files and be fine. Because this files are just, if you haven't used a Fuji camera before, just know what you see in the back of your camera is what you're gonna get. Okay, very, very, very good. I love that it's dual card slots. I think when some mirrorless bodies came out, they only had a single card slot. That's a no-no for me. Let's see what else. I love that it is only 26 megapixels. We're not shooting things to blow up on a big banner 500 feet in the air. I'm not doing that. Okay. It is 20 frames per second. I can shoot very fast. Let's see if I can hear it. Let's see. Ooh. Yo, that's quick. You hear that? If you're shooting movies with this, you can record in slow motion. If you want to have that cinematic feel or slow motion, this body can do it for you. You can shoot 4K with this camera. Okay, you can really do that. I've seen some people using the video for this at weddings without a tripod or monopod or anything because of the IBIS, in-body image stabilization. The battery life is not bad at all. In the entire wedding, I can go through maybe 2 batteries, maybe 1.5, depending on how fast I'm shooting, what I'm shooting, and so forth. But battery life, it's cool. Can it be better? I think so. But for now, it's pretty good. Okay. What I don't like, and I'm gonna be as transparent as I can. I know you guys appreciate and value my transparency and being candid. I don't like that if I'm shooting, let's say, an outdoor wedding in the summer when I live in Texas. It's 100 degrees outside. You can be sure you're gonna see that thermometer show up on your screen to power off, because that heat, the environment, will affect the performance of this body. That can be a problem. Outside of that, that's the only flaw I've seen so far. I've had this since May or June. I got into June of 2021. So far, it hadn't failed me yet, outside of that wedding where it was real hot, and the event I was shooting video in the heat, and that sensor popped up, that thermostat, let me know it's overheating. That's why it's important to have 2 bodies. For me, it's important. I'm actually recording on the other X-T4 again. So I love shooting with Fuji. What else I enjoy about Fuji is the value. Okay, the value. This is the 56 millimeter 1.2 lens. Okay, 1.2, 56 millimeter. I want you to check out the price of other manufacturers' 1.2 lens and compare the price. I love bodies that feel well in my hand. I want it to do its job, and I want it at a fair price. I want to offer a lot of value. And for me, the price for this, it's unmatched. Okay? Brand new, $9.99. Where you gonna get a 1.2 lens for $9.99? It's not happening, not brand new. So you can imagine if you bought it secondhand, how much lower it'll cost. Okay? Again, I'm a prime lens shooter. I have the 23 millimeter 2.0, very fast glass. Oh, this one on the body was a 16 millimeter 2.8. Okay. And all these glass are very economical. Okay. Packed with value. My other body that actually I sold my XT20 to another photographer. She's a Canon user, and I let her borrow my Fuji for a few days, and she loved it. So she ended up buying it from me. And I took the money and just bought the Fuji X100F. There's a newer version, the 100V, but I've seen other people who use it And it's like, man, no knock against it, but hey man, it's Fuji's Fuji to me. All right. I got this on eBay, very good price, and it's pretty solid. So this is my everyday walk around the streets with my family, small events where it's not that serious. This is my body. I take, it's my body of choice. I call it, when it's free work, they get this. But it does you can make nice portraits with it as well. I took it at a portrait session with my regular X-T4, and I was like, wow, you can make some solid portraits with this. I will show you the loaner that I currently have. This is the medium format, the GFX 50R. And I have this until some middle of March. I have to return it back to Fujitsu. But I will tell you, I love the medium format. I thought that if you use a medium format, you'll have to increase the cost of your storage, but that hasn't been the case so far with this one. The portrait's pretty, I use it mainly for portraits because is it for sports or fast moving action? Not at all. That has not been my experience. And for me, this is all about portraits. If you're in the studio, if you're a portrait photographer, I think this body will be one that you will appreciate. It's pretty solid. And this is a 63mm 2.8 lens that is pair with. I've only tried this one so far because that's what's on loaner for me. So I'll tell you this, in closing, I've only been excited about buying cameras a few times. The first time was when I got the Canon 5D Mark II. That was an exciting purchase. That was an exciting experience. When I got to the Mark III, it was like, not that big a deal. The next time I got excited, and I bought the Mark II, that was 2010, July. It wasn't until, I got 5D Mark II, got the Mark III, sold it, 750s. Weren't that exciting. It wasn't that exciting because the menus was just, oh gosh. Went to the Sony, menus were like, that menu was terrible. My gosh. That wasn't that exciting. That's why I sold it after one wedding season, because I used it for a wedding season paired with my Nikon 750, and I didn't like the pair. That's why I got rid of it. It was cool. It's a cool body. I think it's great for portraits as well, but I just didn't like pairing it with my wedding work. And then in 2019 or 2020, yeah, I got a medium format film Mamiya 645, and I was excited about this camera. I was like, yo, this camera is pretty solid. It's a chunk of a beast. Yeah. But it wasn't until I bought my X-T4 that I was excited again. Okay. I also have a Panasonic G85, which is just for some film work, but nothing for real. It's usually behind the scenes. But again, they're all just tools to do a job. I don't think you can knock other cameras per se, because they all have their pros and cons to a degree. But it has to, for me, it has to feel right. I'm very practical. I'm very black and white. How does it feel in my hand? Does it offer good value? Is it consistent with the product it produces? If that's the case, I'm cool. And what do the colors look like? Because for me, these Fuji colors, like you can, even with these bodies, man, they have the film filters that is just primo, all right? Lenses are very, very affordable relative to the marketplace and other brands. But that film filter, I'll tell you, I have almost a guarantee. If you try Fuji body out for a good week or two, you're gonna want one. How do I know? Because every friend that I've tried, have them use my Fuji, either have already purchased one, have made a full switch, or is using it behind the scenes stuff. Because they're so invested in their other gear that they're kind of hesitant to make the switch, but deep down they want to. They've told me this thing. They've told me this. I just love Fuji, and I also love the people at Fuji. The ones I've encountered so far, they're pretty dope people. They've been good to me, and I'm not a gearhead. I just love valuable equipment that offers, you know, great value at the end of the day. And it just feels right for me. Fuji might not feel right for you, but it feels right for me. And the price is just, you can't beat the price. So if you're contemplating making a switch or just adding it to your workflow, be it your wedding work, portrait work, street work, or just behind the scenes stuff, definitely give Fuji a try. I gave it a try and it's been great so far. And I don't think, in fact, I'm almost certain I will not be making a switch to anybody. I don't see that happening. You know, I can't be bought because for me, when it feels right, there's nothing else I can do to it. Anyway, I'm out of here. Thanks again. Catch you later.